Hello and welcome to Premier Study in Investing. It's great to have you. Thanks for stopping by. Moderna receives Health Canada approval for updated COVID-19 vaccine targeting SARS-CoV-2 variant LP.8.1, up 5.24%. Yay! So where does that leave us? At the close, $27. People are buying in the $25 area, 26, 25. People are still buying it up. So that bottom continues to hold. But yeah, the best comment that I've seen from StockWits is someone said, "Hey bulls, how many boosters are you taking this fall?" I thought that was pretty good because vaccination uptake seems pretty low, and it seems like generally people are sort of afraid, regretful, or afraid of such things as SV40 and the like. Here's the big plan for this video. I'm going to go show you an analysis of what happens if Pfizer loses their EUA for the 6-month to 5-year-old adolescent group, and basically Moderna acquires that market share. What happens? So let's look at that first. That's probably what you care about more than these comments. Although they are funny. They are funny. I'm telling you, some of you guys. All right, so here's a table that I pulled up. We were looking at fall 2024 versus expectations or projections for fall 2025, and we were looking at adults and adolescents, and basically something like 21% of people in the United States were, took like boosters or whatever, vaccinated, who were over 18. Obviously, that's not like how many people ever got any, because that's like 70% of the United States population. So it's like basically we're talking about how many people took boosters in the fall season of 2024. It says about 21% by early December. That was the estimate. And then they're thinking 23%, included total adults. And what they say is coverage remains low, and we had eligibility restrictions that came in. Yeah, so we've been talking about that for a while. And then children coverage is extremely low. About 5.6% of kids are taking these things. So some interesting information, stuff I didn't know. Nice to have some numbers. So in written form, roughly 18% of adults and like 38 to 39% of seniors had received updated COVID-19 booster as early as November 2024. And that was like a broad later snapshot noted about 21% of adults vaccinated as of early December. So, and then basically we're not sure, they don't know, but these are just like forecasts that maybe about 23% of adults will be vaccinated now. I don't know, like it seems less of a big deal now than it did this time last year. So I don't know, there's some AI numbers for you. So then I really started getting into it. Let's break down market share by Pfizer, Moderna, and Novavax. Okay, so by the table, estimated sales, basically Pfizer has 62% of market share, Moderna 35%, and Novavax about 3%. You can get that given to you in terms of sales as well. And so all told, it's about a $7 billion market. Now we know that just from our research that Moderna has dropped this estimated sales for this next year. They're not expecting any better than 2 billion, and maybe as low as 1.5 billion. So that's why I'm saying, how can the vaccination rate stay so high? Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So, but again, they say for 2025 outlook likely remains dominant. Pfizer would likely remain the dominant market player. Moderna continued competition and overall lower sales. And then Novavax is just so it's really like a 2-dog race, with Moderna being pretty much the lead dog by far. But here's where it gets interesting. So I start saying let's start to see what happens. Basically, there isn't published reliable U.S. figures that directly report what happens if the Pfizer sales for the 6-month to 5-year-old cohort doesn't happen. But first of all, let's figure out what it is, and then we can talk about. So here's the inputs, and these are kind of important. So their price per dose, commercial list, is about $120. Population, we're looking at, 0 to 5-year-olds, and then they have to drop that number down a little bit. So they're talking about 21.8 million children. Okay, and then what's the coverage? So how many of those kids are getting that? We saw before, about 5.6% of kids are getting this thing. So now we're starting to be able to do some multiplication. And then manufacturer share. Well, Pfizer, like we knew, had the lead at $4.5 billion, Moderna less, Novavax very small, implying that they had the majority share of the doses. So now it's just let's take all these assumptions and turn it into dollars. So uptake, three test scenario, like very low uptake, middling, and very optimistic. So average dose per child is 1. It's not like a multi-dose thing. Like we're assuming that these are primarily boosters, not like initial, what they're calling priming, multi-dose priming, but just kids getting boosters. Pfizer share within this age band, they have about 70 to 80% of these kids from 6 months to 5 years. And then, okay, the price again. So basically, there's, what do we have? Scenarios. Regulatory risk. So if the FDA does not renew Pfizer EUA, obviously they make 0, right? And so all of these numbers down here would essentially, I would say, switch over to become Moderna money. So we're either talking about $110 million, $157 million, or best case scenario, $209 million, which is like something. It's not great. It's a 10% bump maybe on sales, you know? Maybe like if they do $2 billion and they get best case scenario like $209 million from this coming over from Pfizer, then they could, I mean, that could be something, but it's not going to be like crazy. All right. So like, you know, just so you know, it's not going to be crazy. So this would be like the very low uptake. And this would be like, let's assume that Pfizer gets denied and then there's like a very low uptake and this money comes over to Moderna, the $110 million. It'd be what, 6% uptake. Pfizer has 70% of the market and 1 dose. So it's 21.8 million kids times 6% equals, 1.3 million doses times what, 70% market share. So that's 0.91, so like 916,000 Pfizer doses at $120 is $110 million. Okay, or you know, 8% uptake. Say that they have 75% of the market, still 1 dose, or 10% uptake by kids, which would be twice as good as what we were expecting, right? And Pfizer has 80% of market share, 1 dose. So a lot of these numbers are going to stay the same. So 110 to $209 million. So, okay, so let's just go with the optimistic number, and let's say that Moderna takes $200 million of sales from Pfizer. Pfizer loses their EUA and all those sales for the kids 6 months to 5 years old. Comes over to Moderna. It's $200 million. And so let's look at how this works for this company. So they had about $3 billion of, you can see here, revenue. This is 12 trailing months. And basically by the time you get rid of cost of goods sold, basically you have less than half. So cost of goods sold represents like 55% and 45% hits gross profit, let's say. And then you have SG&A, which is a lot. That's going to continue to, there are going to be some shared costs there. Those are probably like, you know, not per unit costs. Those are going to be basically like fixed costs in some general way. You're going to have those people running the accounting and all that stuff. So even with like an extra 200 million on there, let's just say half of it goes to cost of goods sold. So 200 million in revenue becomes 100 million in gross profit. And instead of losing like $3.2 billion, you lose $3.1 billion. It's still a bad loss. $100 million here when you're just blowing through loads of cash on SG&A and R&D doesn't matter. So that's the point for that. Doesn't matter. Let's go have some fun. Look at the comments. See if there's any funny ones. I love these. Okay. Somebody's like really excited for the work that CNBC is doing, pumping Moderna. May the best science win. This guy, tax planner, is always really, really bearish. Always talking about bioweapons and the like. COVID's on the rise, and cases are increasing day by day. Best time to invest in Moderna. Okay. This will be a huge beneficiary of Bill G's prediction soon. A lot of moolah from NVIDIA is going to get into mRNA next. 10 bagger in 5 years. Yes. Oh, good. Then I can live with that. Okay, I'm not sure what that is. 5% max pump per day is back. So this guy's really funny, whoever this person is. They're always talking about these fake 5% pumps, that just like invariably happen and then just retrace the next day. So hilarious. These two don't excite me at all for buying and holding. Maybe good value buy, not sure. Value buy. There's no dividend. This is extremely volatile, high risk. I don't know about a value buy. Great price lagging momentum indicator, stack, RSI, MACD, ROC, all pointing north, waiting for confirmation, candle close. Move to Canada and get the new updated booster. Shorts covered a lot, this long-term bottom level. So it does really seem that $25 is a really interesting inflection point. For me, if we get back down there again, I'll probably add both calls and puts, and I will not make the mistake I made in the past. I think they should be close to at the money. And yeah, a 5% pump one way or the other. So actually this one's pretty interesting. Leerink Partners has adjusted their stance on Moderna, setting the rating to underperform with a target price of 18 down to 15. Is that right? Hey, Leerink. Down to $15. Let's go. I wonder what they said. That's interesting. Healthcare keeps underperform rating on shares. Firm updated its COVID flu vaccine integration market model. Reflects lower U.S. vaccination trends for both COVID and flu. The likely necessity for standalone mRNA flu vaccine approvals for approval of potential COVID flu combo and regulatory uncertainty surround the development and approval path for combo vaccines in light of the current FDA leadership position on mRNA vaccine positions. The analyst tells investors in a research note the development strategy of both the combo and the standalone flu vaccine remains unclear, and Leerink expects regulatory events, clinical data, and commercial contracting dynamics to drive strategic decisions by individual manufacturers. Well, not much there. That's interesting, though.